join. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. If you're ever been curious about starting your podcast, this is it. I created this so that in within 30 minutes, you can already have your kind of like the skeleton of your podcast. And if you want, you can go ahead and launch it. So I'm going to go ahead and record the rest of the meeting. Oh, wait, I am recording already. I didn't even realize. So this meeting is being recorded. And I'm also live on TikTok. Hi, everybody. If you want to join this workshop, I'm about to start. It's to start your very own podcast for free within the next 30 minutes. So join link in bio. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to do this. So if you don't know already, Canva is free and you can do everything there. This presentation I created completely from Canva, completely free. And most of my posts on Instagram and social media, they're from here and they have amazing stuff. So if you're not using it yet, this
I
is
love Canva.
a great tool to use. I'm going to go ahead and if you would like to ask questions, I would ask you to go ahead and ask towards the end so that we can go through this and everybody can like follow along. And there'll be time for questions at the end. Thank you so much. So we're going to start your podcast for free within now less than 30 minutes. So let's get started. Just the basics. Again, these are the questions that we sent beforehand. One of the questions would be, who will your podcast audience be? You have to have that very clear so that when you are actually podcasting and recording and broadcasting, you are speaking to that audience. You have to feel like you're actually talking to them in person. If it's going to be a one-person podcast, you also have to decide whether or not you are going to be hosting just you by yourself. You're going to have a co-host, or and that's pretty awesome because you get to bounce ideas back and forth. Or if you are going to have guests, which is what I usually do. I have a guest, I interview them, and then I, final thoughts. There's different ways to do them. You could do investigative work and kind of like do a little reporting. So you have to think about what kind of podcast you want, and it could evolve into that. Like you can start off as a one-person host, like a monologues type, and then it could evolve into something else. So another question to ask yourself is, what do you want to talk about in your podcast? So keep a list, like a running list of all the ideas, throughout the day. You're like, oh, this would be a good theme, depending on how what kind of podcast you want. So if you want a podcast that you're going to be interviewing, then make sure you have an idea of what kind of people you would like to interview, what kind of questions would you want to answer, and always keep in mind who your audience is. Like, how would this be beneficial for your audience? That's like the number one. Unless your podcast is just like a Dear Diary kind of thing, then you are your own audience, like you're just recording what your anecdotes of what's happened in your life. But other than that, always keep your audience in mind, and also keep in mind what you're knowledgeable in, and that would be beneficial for your audience. So if you're very knowledgeable in, I don't know, social media or finance or something you're passionate about, that maybe that's not your line of business, but this is something you're really, really knowledgeable in, chances are somebody's out there that wants to listen. So keep that in mind. Another question is, how often do you want to share a new episode? This is so that you can start promoting and saying, this podcast is a weekly podcast, daily podcast, monthly, every quarter. Just keep that in mind as well, so that you are able to promote it and people know what to expect. People like to, like if you're watching a show, you want to know that the next episode is coming up next week. So keep that in mind as well. And lastly, we ask that you brainstorm your podcast names and be ready to launch your podcast now. So start thinking about what names you think would go, and then we could talk a little bit about what names you've selected. I'll open up the mics and then we can give suggestions or and listen to what you have to say. So the basics of what you will need to start your own podcast. Basically, the hardware is just, all you need is a mobile device, like any smartphone will do. As long as it has a microphone, you can record, and it has Wi-Fi access. That's it. And then make sure you have Wi-Fi, of course. Alternatively, you would probably work better if you have a laptop computer or like an iPad kind of thing, tablet. You don't necessarily need a microphone, but you can use a microphone. I don't know if you can see the microphone that I am using right now, but this works fine, and it's from Amazon, and I love it. It's pretty awesome. This is what I'm using for my podcasting. But when I started, I didn't have that, and you don't necessarily need it, but it is, it's good to have. And I will, at the end of our session, I'll go ahead and email everybody a link of reasonably priced microphones that I recommend for podcasting, and so on. Also, we as far as software, all you really need is an email address to use so that you can have exclusively for your podcast. Obviously you can use any email, but just make sure, okay, this is going to be for my podcast. And then web browser, so we can go ahead. For today's goal in particular is to get your podcast ready to go, and it's easy, free, and this we are going to be using a platform called Anchor. Now there's so many platforms out there you can use. I selected Anchor because it's super easy to use. They do everything so that like you can self promote in all the different platforms without you having to go into every single one. Obviously it is free. It doesn't have the latest software or anything, but to get started, to be able to edit your own podcast, to be able to just start and launch it today, now, I think that's like the easiest way to go. Later on, if you're a pro and you decide, you know what, I want to monetize this, actually Anchor has an option. You just click a little button and then now you're monetizing, and it's up to you how far you want to take it. For today's purposes, to launch your podcast now, we're going to use Anchor. So this is what we're going to do. If you have your web browser ready, go ahead and type Anchor, that's ANCHOR.FM /sign up. And we're going to do it together. I'm going to start a new podcast here. That one, so I'm going to exit this so you can see what we're going to do. And now at this time, if you have any questions, of course, let me know. We are going to start right here. So if you're there, let's see. If you are there, then you go ahead and fill out all the fields. So I'm going to create this one for my husband. So his full name is Manuel Lopez, and we're going to use my email. Because he does, yeah, just for learning purposes. So I'm going to stop sharing here. And then let me know if you were able to get to this point, because it's crucial so that we can continue and make sure you have your podcast ready. You don't necessarily have to record right now, but if you wanted to, you have that option. So we click sign up, and let me go ahead and share again the screen so that you can see where we're at. So when you click sign up, you're going to see this message up here that says, before you can publish any episodes, you'll need to verify your email address. So with Anchor, and that's really easy. You just reply to the email that they send you, and then you will be able to verify it. So you can your options are here. It's super easy to use. So you can either make your first episode or set up your podcast. I recommend we go to podcast setup. So if everybody can click on that. So Angelica, I know you are setting up your podcast right now. Was that easy enough to go ahead and do?
I'm trying because I had to switch from phones. Earlier, I was on an iPad, and now to my phone, and because I can't view from my iPad to the Zoom, I have to be back and forth. So
Okay.
I'm working on it. I just hit sign up right now. See
No
if
worries.
that happens.
All
Okay.
right. So let's give you guys a few
Okay,
minutes.
so it says some features are not supported in your mobile browser. Oh,
That's okay. I think you can
participants use the
still.
free Encore mobile app. So I have to get the Encore mobile app.
Hmm.
Let me see. Let me try that.
So that is a thing you do have to, if you are on a mobile device, you would have to download the app. And actually, to be honest, I edit all of my podcasts on the mobile app because it's so easy, a lot easier than the desktop version. Although that desktop version, if you like to use a computer, then that would be easier. But for me, the mobile version is amazing. So
But is it only on, can you use that app on Android or only on iPhone?
so this,
Mac.
I believe you can use it on any mobile device.
Okay, good.
It's Spotify. It's basically now Spotify bought Anchor, so now you can use it on any device, and they distribute to every single podcast platform. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everything you can think of, they do it for you. And that's the beauty of it. You don't have to worry about signing up for every single one of them. When you're first starting, it's tedious. So this is a great way to go. Later on, if you ever wanted to go and do your own thing, you can totally transfer over your podcast to whatever other new platform. If you feel like you're a pro now and you want to just, use the pro stuff, then you can do that. So we're going to name this podcast as Dr. Lopez. So Dr. Lopez answers your questions. So the podcast description, this is where I was saying that you need to think about who your audience will be, what your podcast will be about, how often. So your questions weekly. So see, now they know, oh, sorry, weekly on Fridays. So now the listener will know, okay, every Friday I know there's going to be a new podcast about Dr. Lopez answering our questions. Done. I like it. And then also another thing to note is, if you're bilingual, is this going to be in English? Is it going to be in Spanish? What language? So I might go, I might actually, I changed my mind. This is going to be in Spanish, and I'm going to change it all to Spanish. Right now, the market and podcasting, it's not that saturated in Spanish podcasts. So there's room for a Spanish podcast. So I would recommend, if you're bilingual, go ahead and start your Spanish podcast. And here we go. So we have different Spanish options. Let's see, from Spain. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to say, so I am doing this now so you can see how easy it is. Dr. López te responde a tus preguntas cada viernes. So now you know that this podcast, Dr. Lopez will be answering your questions every Friday. So then you choose a category. There's so many categories. Now it's really important to choose the correct one so that whenever somebody's searching for a new podcast, they find yours. So I'm not going to put it in books because this isn't about books. It could be about business or careers. So look at all these categories. It could be self-improvement. Let's see, but this is more of a health and fitness / medicine. So we're going to put it in the umbrella of health and fitness, and we're going to click continue. So when you click continue, it's going to give you the option to choose your art. This is when Canva comes in handy, because in Canva, you can actually go and create your own. So there's so many options. Again, this is free as well, and you can create your own here. So that's a totally different chat. So we're going to go back to this. So, or you can use whatever they have here, and you can just search a photo. Oh, look, this is cool. So I'm going to use this. Done. And see how easy it is. Now this is going to be my logo, and then the name is Ask Dr. Lopez. And then you can select a color. Where do you want it placed? I want it here. And that's it. And you can update your cover art right there. And you can change the font. You can do everything here if you don't want to use an outside app like Canva. And I think it's a great option. Also, if you have a picture, you could just upload it there and you're done. So then now we're ready to distribute our podcast. So they will automatically submit your podcast episodes to all major listening platforms, which, like I said before, includes Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I absolutely love that because it was automatic and so easy. So I'm going to say yes. You click yes, and now your podcast is submitted for distribution. And as soon as you have your podcast ready, it'll go, and anybody can go into, the Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whichever other platforms and find you and listen to you. So now you can make your first episode. So we're going to click let's do it. And here, just so we can record, so you can see how it goes, you click record and it takes you to this and you can start recording. So the reason I said you don't necessarily need anything is because your mobile phone has a microphone. It has a really good microphone. You could use that microphone, or you can use something like this, or your computer microphone, tablet, whatever you have, you can use. And you can just select your microphone input. So I have my internal built-in. Oh, they're both default. So I'm using this one, the Piley, and then I start recording. Thank you so much for coming today and learning about how to start your own podcast. So we're going to stop. It processes. And then let's see, did it process? Here it is. Let's see if we can hear it. Testing. Oh, that's another one from earlier today. Did it not go through? All right, so we can hear this one. Thank you so much for coming today and learning about how to start your own podcast. Awesome. I love it. Okay, I'm going to publish my podcast now. So that's about it. I'm going to, let's see, this is 3 seconds. It was 5 seconds. Remove. And if you wanted to edit, oh, if you want to add background music, you add this, and then you have a selection. So let's say I want this one. So you just click it, you say how loud you want it. I want it really low because I want it in the background. And then I apply. So now I have background music and it's totally licensed. You don't have to worry about licensing or anything like that. And you can have music in the beginning, kind of like an intro, and then you can have it at the end to exit. You can have so many things. And then if you see right here, it says if you want to get paid when people hear an episode, you can activate your sponsorships. So that's with Anchor. They will do it for you. You can also monetize on your own, which I'm not doing yet. So I did activate this. I got like $1 or so. So because I haven't been podcasting lately, so it is pennies, but there is an option to do that if you wanted to. So let's say we're done. This is my podcast. Okay. So I'm going to go save changes. So you have unsaved change. Okay. Let's go ahead and save it. Oops. Oh no. What happened? That's never happened before. That's weird. So now we go to the library because we've recorded. So all your recordings will be in the library. I'm not sure what happened. So we're going to re-add it to here. So we are done. We're going to preview the episodes to see if it worked. Oh, that's odd.
Thank you so much for coming today and learning about how to start your own podcast.
Okay, see, that was like an intro and I want to save the changes. There we go. So this is a page I wanted to get to. Once you are done, you can go ahead and name your episode. So I'm going to name this introduction in the episode description. So a lot of people use podcasts as like a form of blogging. So you can actually write whatever you want in here. You could either write the whole transcript or you can write notes. You know, sometimes you say in your podcast, oh, and all the notes for this podcast are in the episode description, or you could just be as brief as possible as you want. So this is where all of that good stuff goes. And then you can decide to publish it tomorrow at 6 p.m. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to schedule it, or you can publish immediately and it'll go immediately. Obviously there's some time that has to pass for them to go through, but just for learning purposes, this is what we're doing. So this is going to be my season number 1, episode 1. And this is a full episode. So you can also record a trailer or a bonus episode. Let's say you have episode 1, season 1 was super popular and people have a bunch of questions for you and you're like, you know what, I'm going to do a bonus one. So that's when you do a bonus episode. And then obviously if it's explicit, you have to mark it. And that's it. Then you just submit it and schedule it, or schedule the post, or you go ahead, save it as a draft if you feel like you still need to edit. So before I can publish anything, you have to confirm your email because it's a brand new account. So that needs to be confirmed. So I'm going to go back to and that's about it, by the way. It's that easy. I'm going to stop sharing. And do you have any questions so far?
No, I was able to log in, but to my Google account. It wouldn't allow me to do it regular. It said the internet connection was not working. Not on my end, but on the iPod, whatever podcast.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you were able to set it up.
Yeah.
And then you can work on that. So this is all the stuff we did. So we, again, need to answer these questions. So this is the part where we recorded, we named the episode. So here are a couple of tips before we wrap it up to promote your podcast. So definitely, obviously, share on social media, share. You want to use all the platforms you have, just share it. One important thing a lot of people don't do, just share it with your family and friends. Text message them the link and say, hey, I started my new podcast. Would love it if you would listen or write a review. Just be pretty direct and ask for what you want. You can also be a guest on other podcasts. That's a really great way to get an audience, because that podcaster probably has a following already, and you can introduce yourself to a new audience, and you can invite fellow podcasters as guests. Or you can invite social media influencers if you know any to go ahead and help boost your podcast. So depending on what direction you want to go with your podcast, there's so many things you can do. And then here are some stats. So you know that in the US, there's like 50% of homes are podcast fans. They consider themselves podcast fans. You have the age of listeners. As you can see, total 34 is the highest at 48%. 55 and over is at 20%, but they're getting there. And then here are the demographics. 63% of podcast listeners are white. So that's something to keep in mind. And then 51% are employed full-time. And then again, these are numbers for the US. So if your podcast is in Spanish, your audience might be completely different because you're probably going to be speaking to more of a Spanish-speaking population in Latin America. So these are all things to consider when you are getting ready to launch your podcast. So if anybody has any questions as far as like what name to use, how to go about it, anything at all, let me know. And that concludes the workshop.
So when you set up your podcast, I can ask you a question, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. When you set up a podcast, when I tried to do mine, it automatically gave me a URL name.
Okay.
Like it used to Angel Bebe, right? So it did Angel Bebe. I can create my own, or it's giving me whatever is available at the moment.
No, you can create your own, but it will tell you if something is already taken.
So the fact that it's having a hyphen, that means someone else already has Angel Bebe together. Like
probably. Most likely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of odd that specific name is taken, but it
right?
It is Spotify. It's powered by Spotify, so it might be like a Spotify account. I'm not sure if they've now merged all the accounts. That I don't know. But when I created mine, it was Anchor, and if somebody already did have actually some of the ones that I wanted, so I decided to just go with LA Mommy Life and just keep it like that because nobody had that. But there were a lot that were already taken. Yes.
So if I have a Spotify, maybe that's why it's like a Spotify account. Maybe that's why it's saying it's already being taken.
Maybe. Do you pay for it? I mean,
No.
I guess it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. You can try from your Spotify account. That I haven't tried.
Create one?
I haven't tried that, so I don't know how that works. But
Okay.
I've gone through Anchor, like the 3 accounts that I've done for podcasting, not for me, but I've created, have been directly through Anchor.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have you decided on a name yet?
Me?
Yes.
As far as the topic of
the podcast name.
The podcast, Martes de Reflexión.
Oh, I love that. So you're going to be doing weekly Tuesday reflection podcasts. I love that.
Yes.
Leticia, do you have something you're thinking of? You're brewing?
Yeah, I love fitness. That's my passion.
That would be good.
I was thinking about that.
Oh, good. Okay. So this is your opportunity to just launch it. Okay. Well, if nobody else has any more questions, I wanted to keep this short so that you can go ahead and start podcasting. Angelica, do you have a schedule when you're going to launch your first one?
Maybe next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it on Instagram. I'm doing the Tuesdays at 7 p.m. So I'm thinking maybe I can do it after my 7 o'clock or maybe before. It depends how busy I get this weekend.
So here's some tidbits. So since you're doing an Instagram live, you could just go ahead and record on one device for your podcast while you are live on your other device. Like I am right now live on TikTok. Hi everyone. While I am, here on Zoom on my laptop giving the workshop. That's one way to do it. So you already have content. You've done your show once, but you have content for 2. You could 3, possibly 3. You can also and that's just audio record on Instagram. I think it is video record too. Yes. Other people that I've seen, a lot of podcasters actually, they do their show on YouTube because a lot of people use YouTube as actually as a radio. They play their podcast, they play their favorite music. So YouTube is another platform. So if you're already recording live anyway, you can use your camera to record your audio and video. And then now you have another platform you could promote the same content, but just a different platform. So you could do a YouTube video,
so
podcast.
So you said for your podcast, gotcha. Yeah, because what I do when I record on Instagram, because it doesn't automatically transfer to Facebook, so I actually copy it and put it onto my Facebook as well.
Okay, There you go.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. And here to answer any questions, if you're not following me on Facebook yet, it's LA Mommy Life, or on Instagram as well. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, Julie.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.